So, okay, sorry about that, everyone. So happy March, March 8th, and let's dive into some Ayurvedic knowledge. I want to preface it really by saying, it's really, I realized that, as I was preparing for like the cleanse, I realized the whole of yoga, the path of yoga is about a very deep cleansing. It's all the bigger yoga with a capital Y is all about nothing but purification, really. It's about purification of the mind and the heart. And the great philosophy of yoga is very simple. It just says the divine is already attained. You already have that, the essence of enlightenment is already with you. And uh, and we need to realize that we are that. And so why is the true nature of our being hidden from us? It's just because of these accumulation of layers of emotional trauma and undigested emotions, and so many layers are covering our perception. And so just want to say that yoga is really all about cleansing ourselves, right? And so the Ayurvedic cleanse is a physical cleanse, and it will help cleanse this, the cells, the inner passage, the channels, microchannels we call srotas and nadis, and it is like a prerequisite for the deeper, higher cleansing of yoga. So that's really kind of the context in which I want to present this to you. And now let me see if I can reshare the screen. And so I love the definition of Ayurveda. It's really, just as yoga, the definition of yoga, it comes from the word yojana, which means to yoke. Ayurveda, it comes from two compound words, ayuhu. Ayuhu is the life force, which, Sanskrit has so many specific words for life force. And I'm sure you all yogis know another word starting with a P that means life force. And you want to just blurt out and, and I think you all know this word starting out with a P.
Prana.
What is it?
Prana.
You're talking about prana?
Prana, yes, prana.
Prana.
Yes, and prana means actually that which propels you forward. Right? And prana, the distinction between prana and ayuhu, is that ayu is specifically refers to the life force in this embodied physical human form. As long as that. And so when, prana can be, outside in the trees, in the atmosphere, we can call that also prana. We say prana shakti, it's all around us. But ayuhu is within the embodied being, whether it's a dog or a cat or a human body. It's like the life force in the embodied form of life. And it's also, ayu also means lifespan. So the word Ayurveda, and then the word Veda means, and again, there's many different words in Sanskrit for the word knowledge, right? There is another word, jnana, Jnana, and that is jnana, which is like personal knowledge gained through experience. But Veda has this connotation that it is like it took many, many people, it took a community to a civilization to build this body of knowledge. So Veda can be also science. It is a body of knowledge. It's a discipline, right? So Ayurveda, Ayur, and in Sanskrit, when you do Ayuhu plus Veda, it becomes Ayurveda. And this is my own definition that I came up with because I just felt the science of life is just like so vast and it doesn't really mean anything, It's like you hear that all the time, Ayurveda is the science of life. And you're like, what does that mean, So I think very specifically from the Sanskrit kind of scholarly meaning of it, means the science of optimizing your embodied life while living on this planet. It also means the science of optimizing your lifespan, right? So longevity is part of the study of Ayurveda, how to live long, healthy, fulfilling life so that you can have the time to do your meditation, do your sadhana, and attain self-realization. That's really the aim of Ayurveda. Both yoga and Ayurveda, it's like the ultimate goal is, enlightenment, spiritual liberation. So, and in my work of visionary yoga, I think of Ayurveda and yoga as like the 2 points of the triangle, and then the apex is vision and purpose. And I kind of had my designer just come up with this design. I did a whole contest, and I just like this design of a revolving triangle because I feel it just implies evolution and the interrelation between these disciplines, right? This science of inquiring into your vision and purpose, and yoga, both physical and non-physical, and Ayurveda, they all kind of like create, weave together to take you higher on your purpose. So maybe just a quick, kind of, just for those of you who may not be as familiar with Ayurveda, just a quick kind of a foundational overview of Ayurveda's, 3 doshas, 5 elemental system, and Chinese system also uses 5 elements. I'm sorry that my fan is going louder here. I don't know if I can stop this, but Chinese medicine also has 5 elements, but they are different 5 because Chinese medicine starts with fire, water, earth, wood, and metal. Right? And wood and metal are distinctly Chinese system of the 5 elements, but Indian system, they are perhaps like more the stargazing, cosmic thinker types, and I think of Chinese philosophers as more like earthbound, and maybe it's more about that material, approach. But the Indian science starts with space, right? That which is completely invisible, space, and or ether, space, air, fire, water, earth. And it's the order of from the subtlest, right, space, all the way to the most dense. And in an Ayurveda, we further streamline it into the 3 doshas. And it's an interesting combination because, yes, ether and air, you can kind of, see them going together because space offers no resistance. But Pitta is a combination of fire and water, which we think of like as kind of opposing. We think of like putting out fire with water, and we think of Pitta. So it's interesting that Pitta is both water and fire combined together. Why is that? It's because fire in its combustive form can't exist in the human biology, so it has to live in the chemical medium. And so when we think of Pitta in Ayurveda, we think of more the digestive enzymes can be thought of as Pitta, hormonal, like the catalytic molecules of hormones. The neurotransmitters even can be thought of as subtler form of Pitta. The transformative molecules are thought of as Pitta. Pitta is the energy of transformation. Vata is the energy of movement. This is very overview, grossly speaking, generally speaking, but Kapha is earth and water, and is the energy of lubrication and structure. Right? So this kind of Ayurveda one-on-one for you, and this, the subtlest is the most powerful. Right? Just like think about energy forms, right? If you think about nuclear energy, you split the tiniest, unit of matter, right? When you split the atom, you get such a huge release of energy. The subtlest is the most powerful. Whereas mechanical energy, if you try to push a heavy boulder, it's very limited in its impact, right? Chemical energy is more subtler than mechanical energy. It has a far-reaching impact. Electrical energy is even subtler than chemical energy, and so it has more power. Nuclear energy is, subtler, and the subtler you go, it's the most powerful. So Vata is the leader of the 3. Vata is the guy who tells everyone to go this way and that way. And Vata is the hardest, most notoriously hard to keep in balance. And so the word dosha in Sanskrit and also in Hindi means fault. And I kind of jokingly translate it as that which tends to go out of whack. So that which tends to go out of whack is dosha. And so that is why we need a science like yoga and Ayurveda, because maintaining that balance is an art. That's why yoga is skill in action, while all these, we're having our existence in these very, transitory and moving and transforming energies, and we have to learn to balance that. And so right now we're in a very transformative season. So this is the, I love this. I wish I could have a bigger, a little bit more higher resolution image of this, but I just picked it up off the web. And thank you to, I guess, Ayurveda posters for contributing this, because I thought it's really beautiful depiction of the doshas and its relationship to time. And I love this wheel because it's showing you the micro cycles of the day, as well as the macro cycles of the season. And actually, it doesn't show the macro cycle of the lifespan, the human lifespan. So Vata Pitta Kapha governs all time. And in the daily circadian rhythm, Vata Pitta Kapha, goes around twice in a 24-hour cycle. So let's start with Vata, the leader. So like at 2 a.m., from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., as the as we have the dawn, we have the most rarefied time of the day when you can access, this is why the sages and Ayurvedic doctors, and they all advise meditate in the early morning before dawn, because this is when you can access the purest, subtlest, most rarefied energy of Vata. And it'll come around again at 2 p.m. all the way to 6 p.m. But that vata is very different in quality than that early morning vata. This is, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. includes the what the Chinese medicine people call the adrenal time. And so a lot of times we get fatigued, around 3, 4 p.m. That's when the British, and Indians, they take their chai, their tea, because they need a pick me up around 3 or 4 p.m. And so the early morning vata, they both have that, air quality of subtlety, but the afternoon vata has a tired feeling to it, right? Pitta governs the midday and midnight. And so 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's when your digestive system starts to really act up. And so that's why Ayurveda recommends having your largest meal at around 12 noon, or when the sun is mid-heaven, or when you really feel that hunger pang. So depending, you all have, your each individual constitution. So a Vata Pitta person like me will probably feel the hunger pangs around 11:30. We're notorious for like voracious appetite, and like you gotta eat at 12. Otherwise you're not a nice person. Kapha people may, be able to postpone their lunch until 2:30, and it's okay, because they have more earth and they have more ability to fast. It's just because of their the metabolic speed. Vata people, they have variable appetites, so they may sometimes get hungry at 11. They may sometimes suddenly get hungry. They're not hungry at all at 12, or so they have their on and off variable appetites usually. Right? I'll get into that in a second. But so then the kapha time is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. And that's why especially during the cleanse, we really recommend that you try to get to bed by 10 as much as you can, even though I know it's very difficult in living in, New York, or, being ambitious and wanting to get a lot done. But during the cleanse, I really recommend that you give yourself that quality sleep that comes with, kapha's heaviness, right? Kapha is earth and water, so it's very heavy, so it's conducive to sleep. And kapha is also from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that's when Ayurveda recommends that you do your most vigorous physical exercise in the morning, when the photosynthesis happens, when the sun rises and the leaves release their oxygen and prana into the atmosphere. This is when you should do your most active physical exercise. So anyway, so Vata Pitta Kapha governs that daily cycle. But for the seasonal cleanse, we're looking at this now yearly cycle. And when we look at the yearly cycle, we're going to look at this phase of, a dosha can accumulate. There's a phase of accumulation And when it's accumulated so much, then it's called, then at the peak of that, we call that provocation. We call it prakopa, provocation. And at that stage, that's like plucking the fruit when it's ripe. Those are the times when Ayurveda recommends you do the cleanse, because now the dosha has really accumulated to the point of overflow. And if you allow the dosha to overflow, it can circulate in your system and lodge into the weakest parts of your body and start to breed dis-ease. So we are at one of the critical junctures, probably the most critical juncture to do an Ayurvedic cleanse. So right here, see, um, Vata, it governs the fall. It governs the fall. It starts around September. It starts to accumulate. November, and then it kind of hits the very peak in like December, January, and then at the same time, kapha here, as it starts to get colder in November, it's accumulating, and now in the March and in the springtime, when the sun is liquefying the water aspect of kapha, then it starts to have its provocation. So right now is a great time to do a cleanse so that your kapha doesn't overflow and cause all kinds of issues like congestion and hay fever and whatnot. And I have to say that, Ayurveda's original seasons were not 4 seasons, but in India they have 6 seasons, because there's the monsoon season. So it's a little bit of a different uh, kind of a cycle here, but I wanted to explain it for us in the northeast, in the New England area where most of us are. So let's get into, okay, this is kind of philosophical. So, well, beautiful definition of Ayurveda. Ayurveda, the word for health in Ayurveda is swasta. How do you say it here? Swasta. It's a beautiful word, which,
Swasta.
yeah, swasta means swa. Anything with swa means a self, and sta means to stand. So swasta means to stand firmly within yourself, right? To stand firmly within oneself. And then Ayurveda has many, many beautiful shlokas about, what is swasta? It is when your doshas are in balance. It is when your agni is in balance. It is when your elimination is effortless and, is smooth. And when you have also your mind is in a pleasant, your senses and your mind are working harmoniously together. Such a state, so psychological health is very much included in the Ayurvedic definition of health. So it's I wish I could just read the whole Sanskrit to you, but it's really prasanna atma indriya manaha. This is the phrase. Prasanna means the delight. When the mind is in is in a delightful state, when the senses and the inner self are in harmony, and the mind is in a harmonious state of being, then it is said to be health. So I think it's really beautiful, in addition to the World Health Organization's definition of health, it really gives another dimension of, like, to stand firmly in yourself also implies knowing your dharma, knowing your, standing in your purpose as well, so it goes much deeper than just the physical. So let's get into the cleanse. So, you know, I know because I'm working so much on the computer with the membership and everything, and I realize it's like we've really gotten so good with the just the 24/7 lifestyle of life and work and everything blended together, and we've become very good at staying glued to our screens and very good at ignoring the subtle requests of the body. And perhaps not you all, because you're meditating, right? You're doing your yoga, you're meditating, and you're attuning, you're taking the time to attune to your inner self. But so many people, it's just like we've just gotten so used to just going, and taking this hardworking body for granted. And so the Ayurvedic cleanse gives us a time to slow down. And I think it's beautiful that also astrologically, the sign of Pisces is giving us permission to, it's a sign that allows you to really go deep and allow yourself to not be so, task task oriented all the time, and just allow yourself to be to open up to the deeper terrain, and what is, just check in with yourself. And this is a time, Ayurvedic cleanse is a check in with yourself, both physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I've done a few times the Ayurvedic cleanse, sometimes when I was in India and also in the West. And I can tell you, it's the results are beautiful and far-reaching. And sometimes you don't you may not see the results, you may not feel the results immediately, like for weeks or even months, or even some people after 1 year they realize, oh, I usually get hay fever this season and this year I didn't. So for everybody the effect is a little bit different, but one, by resetting your digestion, it's definitely giving you, making that system much more efficient. And that's another kind of genius, a simple genius of Ayurveda, is paying more attention to the digestive metabolic mechanism itself, not just what you eat. So Western medicine pays so much attention to the kind of the biomolecular breakdown of carbohydrates and protein and vitamins and all of that. And that's great, and you can read the contents, and just think, okay, and you can work with the nutritionist and say, I'm taking this many calories and this many vitamins and this many proteins. But if your digestive mechanism is off, no matter what good qualities of food you ingest, it's really not going to work, right? Because the system is working under stress. And so the value of doing the Ayurvedic cleanse is to really, it's like doing like doing I guess, for the car, it's like cleaning the pipes and taking the time to make sure the engine is in good working order. And so whatever you put into this machine, it can digest efficiently and it can assimilate efficiently. And so it is a digestive reset. It is also a reset for elimination patterns. The sanitation department of your body is the most important department of your body. So even though it's not very, polite to talk about it in society, it's so important to, you know, just be just have that regularity. It's also reset for your circadian rhythms, because maybe because of COVID, we've gotten better at, getting more rest. But I think we're again in this cycle of going, and it's easy to burn the candle at both ends. And so it's, giving us a chance to um, sync with nature's rhythm, right? So, and the most important, at the central of any Ayurvedic therapy or treatment is, we always have to consider Agni, which is the metabolic and digestive fire. And it is such a, again, it's such an elegant system, I think, because just this one symbol can talk about your ability, for example, your cognitive ability, for example. Right? Agni, having a good Agni is very important for digesting information as well as food. Right? Having a good Agni is important for having good immunity. Having Agni is very important for having good emotional health. Right? Having Agni is important for having, maintaining proper weight, maintaining your ideal weight. And it's important for the luster. It's responsible for the luster in your skin. Your eyesight also depends on Agni. So many systems, the Agni expresses itself through. And it has, when you go into the medicine, the medical aspect of Ayurveda, we'll discover there's like 13 different types of Agni, but it all comes from the one central fire, which we call Jatara Agni. And see, Jathara, Jatara Agni, which is right here in your solar plexus, right? And it's, your small intestine, your stomach, they both are contain, they hold that energy of Jatara Agni. And that is the fire that feeds all the other subtler fires. And so a lot of people who do the cleanse also experience emotional release, because that Agni was hampered with so many emotional toxins as well. Right? Um, so twice a year. It's recommended to do Ayurvedic cleanse, and once is this point right now, which we're coming up against, is this the point of transition from winter to spring, and the other is from summer to fall, and they are, and the cleanses are slightly different in nature because this cleanse that we're doing from transition from winter to spring is all about cleansing the kapha, and kapha has a particular uh, place that it resides, the main stam, the main place it resides in the body, and that is, we call it amashaya, that is more the upper lungs and also the upper portion of the digestive um, tract area. And the summer to fall is targeting pitta. And so that is important, especially for pitta individuals. And usually at the around late August to mid September is a good time to do that pitta cleanse. But I think that this is probably the most, because kapha is the most physical, the most, you can actually see it in the form of mucus. You can actually see it, and it is, you can actually see it also in as plaque, and when kapha has similar quality to what we call ama, which we'll talk about later, which is the digestive toxins. And so these are two times in a year. And the other question is like, how long should my cleanse be? And that really depends on how busy you are, how much time you can realistically devote to cleansing. And so, I would love to, ask you right now, like, to really, ideally, it would be great if you can like follow, give yourself, the rest to sleep at 10 p.m. and to wake up at around 6 a.m. and to allow yourself to rest and do meditation and restorative things as much as possible. It doesn't mean you can't work at all, but it's really advisable to do a cleanse when you're not stressed. So, that's why I want you to really choose the time and plan for doing your cleanse and really be intentional about, planning your cleanse. So, and the other thing to keep in mind is that we're going to be, approaching the cleanse in 3 phases, right? And the last phase is going to be what I call the reintroduction phase, when you go from when you transition from your cleanse into your normal daily diet and routine. And so if you do a 21-day cleanse, you really want to devote a full 7 days. Well, let's see. I don't think you need 7 days to prepare, but let's see here. Yeah, it's a, if we divide it into like 7 days preparation, 7 days cleanse, and 7 days reintroduction, then you want to definitely take those 7 days to ease back, an entire week to ease back into your regular full, varied diet that you've been having. And um, so you can choose, if you do a 3-day cleanse, it would just be 1 day to prepare, 1 day to cleanse, 1 day to ease back. So that's a really quick one. But, it can be somewhere in between. It can be a 9-day cleanse. It can also be, if you probably don't need 3 full days to prepare, but, it's helpful definitely to sit down and really prepare and write out a little schedule for your cleanse. Okay. So, and it's also important to note that this is not panchakarma. There are parts of it that kind of mimic panchakarma. Panchakarma is the famous Ayurvedic deep cleanse therapy, for which I highly recommend you should check yourself into a professional panchakarma clinic, and where you have the supervision of an Ayurvedic doctor, and because panchakarma is very, very in-depth and does require that you absolutely don't do anything except panchakarma. So this is not that. This is something you can do while you live your daily life, but definitely not when at your most stressful times. Okay, so the contraindications for an Ayurvedic cleanse is, so if you fall sick, it's definitely better for you to just wait till you feel better, recover from your illness, and wait a few days of having normalcy and having normal energy before you do the cleanse, because cleanse takes some energy and will be on a restricted diet. So that's not a great time to do a cleanse when you are sick. And if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, also that's not a great time because you really want to have the full nutrient spectrum available. And then for a menstrual cycle, um, yeah, it's probably better when you, because your agni is low during your digestive fire is on the low side when you have your menstrual cycle. So that's also not a great time. But other than that, choose a time when you can really give yourself deep self care. Okay, so now, okay, you might be, this is just an aside. If you don't know your Prakriti, your Ayurvedic constitution, I'm going to be outlining for you a general Ayurvedic cleanse and not a dosha specific Ayurvedic cleanse today. But if you want to know at least your primary dosha, here's I have on my website a quick, easy dosha quiz, and you can get a good idea of at least what your primary dosha is. So you can go to visionaryyoga.com/dosha quiz and just kind of get a quick diagnosis. But the most accurate, I will just preface this with a disclaimer that says, Prakriti is also very deep and profound science. And in order to really to get the pinpointed, diagnosis of what is your exact ratio of Vata Pitta Kapha in your, that you're born with, the best way is through pulse, and that is only done by a trained um, Ayurvedic physician, and it is such a subtle thing to you have to like learn how to. Each finger is has three receptors for Vata Pitta Kapha, and it's a very very subtle, deep thing. But at least if you know your primary dosha, you know much more than most people, and you will know, how to at least orient your diet. It's also great to know your secondary doshas. So for that, a longer questionnaire is required. But it's another layer, another level of self-knowledge. Yeah. So we discussed, three phases of the Ayurvedic cleanse. So let's talk about preparation. So sit down, give yourself 15, 20, 30 minutes to write out a plan for your cleanse. And what I highly recommend is just, a typical day in a cleanse. I have this in another document. So let me just see if I can push this aside and find that document. Okay. A typical day in, okay, so this would be your dinacharya, your daily schedule is, okay, in the morning, try to rise with the sun or a little before the sun. So I recommend at least around 6 a.m. Right? Rise with the sun. This is your circadian rhythm reset time, and the days are getting longer. So it's great to, start getting up at least by 7. But if you can get up by 6, you catch some of that vata time. And then you want to scrape your tongue and brush your teeth. And a lot of times, even the toothpaste that we use in the West, it is dominated by sweet taste. And um, Ayurvedic, Ayurveda recommends that you use more of a astringent taste. And there's if you go to Little India, you can get this toothpaste called, it's a little kind of a reddish tinged toothpaste. It has turmeric as its basis, and it's called Dabur Red. It's not the most natural, the best art, but it's what we can get in the West. And so if you want to try that, that is, it works on your gums as well. So brushing your teeth is not just for your teeth, right? It's also for your gum hygiene. And so all the sweet taste in these white toothpaste is not so great for the gum because sweet dilates, whereas astringent, it tightens the gums. If you really want the authentic thing, I think tooth powder is the best. Ayurvedic tooth powder, which you can also get, I think, I think in Bunyan Botanicals or an Ayurvedic, like an Indian grocery store. But so anyway, you scrape your tongue, brush your teeth, and then take a bath. Have warm water with lemon and 1 teaspoon of organic honey. And this warm water is very, very important. I would say hot water, hot water, because it really helps to begin to dissolve uh, the undigested material from last night and from the past. We all have residual. And and the way you can tell if you have residual toxin is when you look at the bathroom mirror, you open your tongue and go, and you can see the white coating on your tongue. That's a sign that there is some systemic ama, AAMA. AMA is let me see here. I think I do have a slide on AMA. AMA. Let me see here. Finding, let me see. Okay, here it is. AMA is this sticky, undigested food mass that, if left in the system, it putrefies and become a very nasty substance called ama vish, which is ama poison, literally. And when it circulates in your system, it can cause atherosclerosis, it can cause arthritis, it can cause just clogging of the channels. It lodges in the places where you have the weakest, in our body through our past traumas and through just it's through genetics. We have what we call ka vaigunya in our body. Ka vaigunya means defective space. We all have it in some places. Kha, ka. Vaigunya means defective. Ka is space. So wherever we have ka vaigunya in our system, some of us, when we have the ama circulating, it will start to lodge there. So if you had a previous knee injury, that's why we keep getting, once you injure yourself in one area, you keep getting it, and so um, we want to keep our system ama free as much as possible. And this slide shows the more healthy and balanced and steady your ama, the more ama is mitigated. The weaker the ama, the weaker the fire, the weaker the agni, the more ama accumulates. That's why we really want to. And when you have, for example, for women, for during the menses, it's very advisable to eat a light diet, just like you're on because your digestive fire is low, and the whole point of the cleanse is to get the fire to blaze in a very balanced, steady fashion. Okay, so that's the so that was all to explain this dinacharya of drinking warm or hot water in the morning. Okay, so let me continue with that, and let me share this other document here. Hi, Marianne. I just see you again. I'm glad to see you here. So let me just share the other document, which is okay. So you want to also, part of the morning routine, this is the Ayurvedic morning dinacharya, and it seems very elaborate, but that's why awaking early gives you a little extra time to do this self-care ritual. So definitely drink that hot water with lemon to start the inner cleansing process. And then nasya is optional if you're having a lot of nasal congestion. Instead of nasya, I would recommend doing neti pot cleansing. Neti pot cleansing, if you tend towards sinus infections, if you tend towards drippy nose all spring, then invest in a good neti pot, ceramic neti pot, and you can use it with sea salt. Don't forget the sea salt, because without the sea salt, it hurts. It hurts like crazy. And so, yeah, you pour, you dissolve the sea salt in the warm water, and then you want to, pour it through one nostril and it goes out the other, and like that. So this will really help to cleanse the sinuses. And if you are more of a kapha person, perhaps the neti pot is the way to go. If you're a vata person and you tend to have dry sinuses, then nasya is great. Also, if you have any issues with, above the clavicle issues having to do with ears, eyes, neck, head, brain, even the neck, nasya is a very good therapy for anything, nourishment for the brain as well. So I love Dr. Laud's, I think, Siddha Soma. Siddha Soma has some beautiful aromatic oils to open the sinuses, and it's very also kind of has some meditation oils in there too. So Banya also has nasya oil, but if you go to ayurveda.com, Dr. Law's site, he has some like super, I think they're called like super siddha nasya oil or something. And you just put like 4 drops of oil in one nostril and you just ingest it and you do a nice little massage and then you do the other side. And I don't know, it's weird for Westerners. We're not used to, ingesting anything through the nostrils, and it feels strange, but it is a very good tonic for the brain. Um, so then comes Ayurvedic self-massage, Abhyanga. And again, for the winter time, for most of you, this is where, knowing your Ayurvedic type comes in very handy. For Pitta people, during the winter time, if you are pure Pitta, then you can I would use the daily massage oil I wouldn't use coconut oil in the wintertime. I think even for Pitta people, it might be a little cold. So the daily massage oil is a very balanced blend from Banyan Botanicals. Um, if you are Pitta, Pitta Vata type or Vata Pitta type, then I would use, you can use sesame oil during, if you're Pitta Vata, consider yourself Vata during the winter time, right? You follow Pitta protocol during the summer season, and you will follow Vata protocol during the winter season. Okay? If you are Kapha type, then you can, sesame oil is a little bit on the heavy side. You can use like safflower oil. In India, they use like mustard seed oil, which is a very pungent smell. And I think Westerners doesn't really agree with them. But you can also, the Kapha massage oil from Banyan Botanical has a nice blend of, I think, safflower, sunflower, and lighter oils. Because Kapha tends to already have kind of oily skin, so lighter oil suits them better. And then you can take a warm shower, or if you don't want to mess up your beautiful bathtub and have an oily bathtub, then it's okay. Take a hot shower, then do the abhyanga afterwards, right? Then once, and you'll find that right after shower, when your pores are open, you do your abhyanga, and you always want to do abhyanga from the periphery during a cleanse, especially from the periphery towards your torso, from your feet up towards your torso. Around the belly, you do a circular motion. Around the joints, you can also do circular motions, right? And then don't forget your ears. This is a very Vata organ. So don't forget your ears and don't forget your feet, especially the heels. This is a lot of times where the Vata enters the legs and causes osteoarthritis. So you want to lubricate the feet, the toes, big toes, everywhere, the knee joints, a lot of those places where osteoarthritis sets in the older age. You really want to, really do a good massage, because the oil does so much more than lubricate your skin. It's not just a nice moisturization for your skin. It has an effect transdermal effect on your nervous system. And it is keeping the vata from entering the system. Vata is invisible, right? It's subtle. It's air plus ether. We can't see it, but it definitely has an effect. And vata and the bones go together, because bones are like dry, right? Vata is drying. And so osteoarthritis is a vata condition that I think is very, very widespread. After 40, after 50, most everyone gets osteoarthritis of some sort. So I find doing I swear by the daily oil massage, it's just makes a huge difference. Of course, your skin is wonderful, but also in sesame oil, there's some calcium. It's very good for the hair as well. So do a scalp massage. You can also get separate hair oil from Banyan Botanicals. You just put a little bit, and you're massaging the scalp, not the hair itself, but you're massaging the scalp, and you're strengthening the roots of the hair by doing this. You're also giving your brain a good circulation massage. And it's, Indian head massage is very, very famous. You're settling your nervous system. There's a very nourishing effect on your brain. If you tend towards like insomnia, or if you under mental stress, then you can use Brahmi oil from Banyan Botanicals as well, and that's wonderful. It's a cooling oil, especially good for any mental stuff you're going through. Okay, so after you take your, you do your self-massage, you take in your warm bath or shower, then it's time for exercise. And so during your cleanse, it's better not to go for the shebang, level 4, super duper yoga practice. It's better to take it easy, because why? Because toxins are being loosened during the cleanse. And so during the cleanse, you want to do gentle yoga, gentle stretches. And because when you do deep yoga, like Ashtanga, primary series, kind of like very deep yoga, then you're pushing the toxins deeper into the system. And so it's not advisable to do those sweaty, deep, yoga during the cleanse. It's better to do more restorative. It's better to do slow, gentle stretching kind of yoga. And yeah, just long, nice shavasana. Then comes breakfast. Okay, so breakfast, basically during the entire, what do you eat, right? During the cleanse, basically you eat what we call the mixture of mung dal and rice, basmati rice, called khichdi. And it's a mono diet, basically. Why do we do this? Because it is the dosha neutral food you can have. It's the most nourishing dosha neutral food you can have. And you don't want to be provoking vata pitta kapha, any of the doshas. And so, and you can, spice your khichdi a little bit to help the agni kindle. And you can also have steamed vegetables along with your khichdi. And you can vary that. And if you get really bored with it, oatmeal or whole grain hot cereal you can have in the morning. But for kapha people, it's okay to even skip breakfast until you are hungry, then have your khichdi. This is only for kapha people, and I'm not seeing too many, actually none of you are probably pure kapha types. So for most of you, you can have oatmeal. If you're having a lot of congestion, I wouldn't put dairy into the oatmeal. This is a cleanse, so it's better just hot water. You can add a little honey. You can add some reconstituted dry figs or prunes or raisins. They are good fiber and they will help elimination. So you can just soak some dried fruit overnight and put it in your oatmeal if you so choose. And then khichdi with, veggies, a nice big bowl, and always, chew your food well with hot beverage. Either you can have the, inside the membership, there's a little video on how to make CCFT. That's cumin, coriander, and fennel tea. And let's see if there you can look inside the Ayurvedic holistic health tips section, and you just simply roast a little cumin and cumin seeds, coriander seeds, and fennel seeds, and you just roast it very lightly until you kind of get the fragrance. And then you steep it about, let's see, maybe two teaspoons in a quart of hot water, and then until the water becomes light brown in color. And you just strain it and drink it. And that tea is very good it'll melt your pounds away. It's a great digestive aid. It's a detox. And it's also a balancer of all the three doshas. So sip on, it's also hydrating. It's not caffeinated. So either sip on CCFT or hot water with lemon along with your meal throughout your cleanse. So drink at least 8 to 12 glasses of warm room temperature or hot water with lemon and honey, hot water with CCFT. You can vary the vary the beverage, only not caffeinated. If you can just live without caffeine for a few days, that'll be a great reset for your nervous system as well. I know can be a challenge for some of us caffeine addicts, but and then you want to finish eating around at least 8 p.m. Okay, finish eating by 8 p.m. You're going to go to bed at 10, so I recommend finish eating by 7 p.m. Have an early dinner so that your body has plenty of time to complete digestion before you shut your system down for sleep. So yeah, 7:30, finish eating and get to bed, and then before bed, have 2 tablets of Triphala tablets with warm water and go to bed by 10 p.m. And I recommend also having a before night ritual as well, because in this digital era, people are having insomnia is like is worse than the pandemic, right? It's an epidemic nobody talks about, but it's so important to, as Ariel Huffington says, like put your cell phone, tuck it into a blanket, and just say good night. Put it in another room and say good night to your. And I think these days they're becoming, even more mindful, and I think you can. There's a setting on your phone that you can actually put your phone to bed, literally. So put your phone to bed, put it in another room, and get up by an old-fashioned alarm clock. What can be a night ritual? I love taking a hot bath. Taking a hot bath is wonderful. It opens your channel. After a hot bath, you can do a little oil massage on the soles of your feet, and and just, yeah, let it. It's very wonderful for the vata in your system. I find that hot baths really give me very deep sleep, and you're like a well-boiled linguine in bed. And make sure the whole room is dark, with there's a lot of light pollution inside our rooms, right? A lot of lights that just little lights that are disturbing your circadian rhythm. So try to have absolute darkness in the room that you sleep in. There's digital devices, or get a blackout curtain, or use an eye. I use a kind of a satin, very soft fabric eye thing that blocks out the light and just allows me to really get a good night's sleep. And I find it really helpful. What else can you do? Read a book, read a boring book before you go to bed, or just read, you can read a paper book, not a Kindle or an iPad or an iPhone, not a digital book, but read a paper book, and maybe, read something uplifting, and keep that by your bedside. And sometimes I also like to, before I do all that, I like to do my little planning of the next day. That's usually the beginning of my night ritual, is like planning the next day, what's important, what's priority, and what are my wins for the day. I do a little ritual too. That's like my personal development ritual of like, what am I grateful for? What are my wins? How am I gonna, what am I gonna improve tomorrow? These are all fields in my trusty little panda planner book, and I love to do that before bed. Then, if I'm really tired, I don't need a bath, but if I want to treat myself, and during your cleanse, you really want to treat yourself, do deep self-care. So I do, recommend a hot shower or hot bath, and and then go to bed by 10. Okay, so that's pretty much the, and that's the main cleanse time, right? That's the ritual for the main cleanse. So up to now, do you have any questions? I just want to, let's see, I'm going to just go back to my, where's my, here. Anybody have any questions so far?
So there's
I do.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Kathy. Yes, Marion.
Marion.
Just a quick question. So there's only breakfast?
Well, eat it if you're hungry. Eat it if you're hungry, and have a oatmeal, hot cereal. You can also
No, I mean, apart from breakfast, there's nothing. You don't eat anything else for the rest of the day?
No. You have your khichdi, which is the monk.
Oh, I thought that was. Oh, okay. I thought
That's for
that
lunch
was
and dinner. That's for
breakfast.
lunch and dinner. Yep.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yes. And you can vary the vegetables, and you can, and you can also, if you really get bored, then you can have dal, which is the soup version, and then you can have basmati rice, and same two ingredients, but one is a soup, one is a rice, and you can add a little spiced ghee also. Yes. Is there any other questions, Marion?
Not
It's
for right
not a
now.
starvation diet. Not a starvation diet, thank God. But I think, it's not about losing weight. It's really about resetting your digestive system, giving it a little rest, from processed foods, avoiding, avoid the white stuff, the refined white sugar, the refined white flour, and dairy for the most part, because this is kapha season. So we want to avoid, like, ice cream is a big no-no. And if you're gonna have milk, I hesitate to say it, but I mean, if you're going to have milk, then heat it, make it hot, and put some ginger in it. But during a cleanse, I really advise no dairy. Yes, because we're trying to dry up the kapha. Yes. So, and Kathy, what's your question?
I have two questions, if it's okay. I'm not familiar. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with triphala.
Yes,
Triphala?
triphala. Yes.
Triphala.
Yeah, it's called triphala, 3 fruits, right? So that's the most famous, probably most famous Ayurvedic formula. And it's another, genius formula that, 3 fruits, one each for each of the doshas. And so it has amalaki, which is the highest naturally occurring vitamin C on planet Earth, even more than acai, because that vitamin C from amalaki can be heated and cooked, and still you get the vitamin C. So it's an amazing, kind of a divine fruit. Amalaki is also very good for the eyes, very good for the eyes. So triphala actually is a cleanser, but also triphala ghee that has been infused with triphala is often used for healing the eyes. And so triphala ghee, because ghee is also good for the eyes, and triphala is also good for the eyes. So, we're using triphala here as a cleanser. But so it has amalaki and haritaki, which is a very good laxative, not like senna, which makes you gripe and go through all kinds of pain to eliminate, but it's the most smooth elimination. So haritaki for vata, and then bibitaki for kapha, to scrape away the excess cholesterol and the goo that's built up in your body. So amalaki, haritaki, bibitaki, this is triphala, and at night you just take 2 tablets, and you can continue doing so even after the end of the cleanse, just to have a little element of cleanse in your daily. I've been taking triphala it's probably the only drug that you can take so long and not have any adverse, only have beneficial effects, because it is also, in addition to being a cleanser and great for the eyes, it is a tissue rejuvenative. So it enhances the tissue because of that vitamin C and all that. So yes, so triphala.
Thank you. And one other question, if I may. Once one recognizes her dosha, primary and secondary,
Yes.
is that for life, or can that dosha change?
Great question. It's such a great question because, yeah, prakriti, the word prakriti literally means nature. And so in the Ayurvedic context, when we say, what's your prakriti, we mean what did nature endow you with, right? It's like, so what's your ratio of natal vata pitta kapha ratio in your body? And so yes, it's the cards that you're dealt, it's a genetic ratio of vata pitta kapha in your cells that is given to you at the time of conception of your mother, ovum and sperm merging. Also the season in which the mating happened can affect what the dominance of dosha. If it was a sultry hot day and they're both pitta, very hot pitta types, and they mated in the hot summer season, and the pitta might be very, very pronounced. But if the same two individual mated during the winter time, maybe there'll be higher either secondary vata or kapha in the mix. So it really depends, but it's not supposed to change throughout your entire life. However, we are living in such times of lifestyle derangement, shall I put it? So many of us have done habits that, it was very interesting because I lived in India for like 10 years, right? And I'm a very pitta person. That's my primary dosha. But before I went to India, I had my Ayurvedic guru take my pulse, and he told me, you're a pitta kapha person, pitta kapha. And before before I did this whole India odyssey, it was very easy for me to gain weight, and it was hard for me to lose weight, and it was just, I had a very different speed to my cells. And then after I went to India to study Ashtanga yoga, I practiced on the hot rooftop in Rajasthan where my partner lives for like 90 days straight, like daily 2 hours of Ashtanga yoga practice, and I sweat a ton and under the Indian sun, and I don't know, but really, I came back and I realized the speed of my cells had literally changed. And I had a chance to go to Dr. Lal again after a few years of living in India. He checked my pulse and he said, "You're Pitta Vata." And I said, "Wait a minute, but you said I was Pitta." And then he pressed very deeply and listened deeply to my pulse. And he said, "Oh, you are Pitta Kapha, but now the Vikriti of the Pitta Vata, it has encroached upon you. It's so dominant now that it's almost like he calls it Vikriti encroaching Prakriti, which is that imbalance has become so like almost permanent that it is covering up the real Prakriti underneath. So that can happen, which was a revelation to me. I also thought, once a Pitta Kapha, always a Pitta Kapha. And but because of I think in India, the sun is hot, the food is hot, the water is even, everything, that you're surrounded by this heat, and so I think the pitta got very pronounced. And then maybe I was studying so hard, and just maybe the vata got kind of like permanently out of whack, or who knows. But so that can happen, and I kind of welcome the change from I did feel more sluggish when I had that more dominance of kapha in me. And now I kind of wish a little bit long for, I want a little bit more kapha stability now, but Prakriti is, the deepest layer of your pulse. In Ayurvedic pulse diagnosis, there's 7 layers of pulse, the 7 layers of pulse. And the deepest, the most buried is the Prakriti. So it's no easy matter for an Ayurvedic practitioner to decipher your genetic code of, Prakriti. You have to really press deep, and then you have to really listen deeply. And if you're like me, and I have, then you, even experienced physicians like Dr. Lodge can make mistakes. So it's quite a, fascinating thing. So that's a great question, though. But think of
Thank you.
as your Vata Pitta Kapha genetic signature, and it's also your unique set point for balance. So if my pitta is here, this is my prakriti, is like my pitta's here, my vata's here, and my kapha's here, then this is my balance, right? People think that balance means equal vata, pitta, kapha. People think it's like the equal, like the 3 bars of vata, pitta, kapha being even. This means balance, but that is not so, right? So if you are vata, if you have high vata naturally, and you're born vata type, and you have pitta here and just a teeny bit of kapha, that's your prakriti, that's your unique set point for balance, and that's what you're striving to, right? But due to not knowing Ayurveda and living an imbalanced lifestyle, your vata is now, this is your natal vata, and now your vata is way up here. The difference between your prakriti and where it's at now is called vikriti. That is called your current imbalance. Vikriti means your current imbalance, right? So due to living in the crazy New York City lifestyle and the digital age, you're naturally here, vata, but your vata has been elevated. And due to eating too much spicy food, going to Mexico, the pitta may have elevated here. Then so even for a pitta person, it can be elevated. So that's your vikriti. So Ayurveda protocol is all of it is to make your vikriti equal your prakriti. You know what I mean? We're trying to get rid of that imbalance so that you're at your unique set point for balance. And for each person, that is different. And that's why it's so important to know this is a very vital level of self-knowledge, is what is your prakriti? What is your prakriti? And so, meditate, I wonder maybe I can, kind of try to teach you, I don't know if I can through Zoom, but how to read your own Ayurvedic, own pulse, the Ayurvedic way. It's amazing. Western medicine only measures the pulse rate, and what else do they, basically just the pulse rate, right? They just have 2 fingers and they just, okay, it's 60 per minute or whatever. But Ayurveda can give you such a wealth of information from just the pulse, the tongue, just even coloration, looking at your nails, looking at your conjunctiva, the body is a book that we must learn to read. And so, yes, so we can detect imbalances. But anyway, that is a great question about Prakriti. I digress.
And thank you for the great answers.
Of course. So let's see. Any other questions, Julie? And so let me also explain to you a little bit about okay, functions of Agni. I want to teach you a little bit about the four different kinds of Agni. Okay, so four different types of Agni. Okay, somebody's coming back. And how they correspond to the doshas. Okay, so this is another layer of knowing is, in addition to knowing your Prakriti, in addition to knowing your genetic code of Vata Pitta Kapha, knowing your Agni type is very, very important, especially when selecting your, when sitting down to eat. So Vata people tend towards what we call Vishama Agni. Vishama Agni Vishama means irregular. And so again, Vata is that which is hard to control. It's like the wind. And Vata people in general have a hard time maintaining a regular lifestyle rhythm. And because of that, and they love the variety, and Vata people immediately because they talk 1,000 words an hour, 1,000 words a second, and it's just like, ooh, they're like, people like that where they talk so fast and their mind goes from one thing to the other. They talk so fast and they catch on very fast, and they also forget very fast. That's Vata person, yeah? So they have irregular appetite, irregular indigestion, and due to this, they tend to get a lot of gassiness. And so that's Vata. So if you're a Vata person, and also it doesn't mean you might not be Vata Prakriti, or you might have a Vata Vikriti. You might be suffering from a Vata imbalance. So the number one thing then is to really establish a daily regularity in your rhythm. Regularity in your rhythm. So the cleanse is a perfect thing, and it's a reset for that irregularity of Vata. Try to go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, eat breakfast at the same time, lunch at the same time. Really regulating your rhythm is so, so important. Now, Tikshna Agni, this is the kind of Agni Pitta people tend to have, and that is a very high flame. And so this kind of Agni can make you, if you're a Pitta person and you've kind of felt faint because you had low blood sugar, or, if you don't eat, if it's like 4 p.m. and you haven't eaten lunch and it's like an extreme hunger and appetite, that is Tikshna Agni, and you can have like voracious appetite. This kind of Agni is also not balanced. This is, Pitta people tend towards this, and we really have to watch out for, eating too many spicy foods, oily foods, fried foods, acidic foods, even like vinegar, too much sour fruits also is not so great for Pitta people. Right? A little bit is okay, but especially the fried food is not good for Pitta people. And then Manda Agni, that's the type of Agni that Kapha people tend to have, and they have a very sluggish, appetite. Kapha people love to sleep. And so they're the ones, who can sleep until 9, 10, 11 a.m., and then get up and, they're just kind of they're going to their kitchen, and no amount of coffee can help rev up their metabolism. And so Kapha people tend to lack appetite. They tend to, if they eat one large meal, by dinner time they still are not hungry. So they do the best with fasting, fasting types of cleanse. Let's see. Ah, okay. Sure. Got it. Of course. Great to have you. So yeah, and then what we're aiming for in the Ayurvedic is, in everything we do in Ayurveda, is Sama Agni, the steady flame, which is the perfect efficient digestion. And so maybe you can diagnose yourself, right? What type of Agni you have. And mostly, you're all relatively healthy, so you have some of samagni, but we want to, the purpose of the cleanse is to really allow that flame to become a regular, steady burning flame. And so keeping a regular, creating a regular schedule, sticking to it, and also, come up with some plan to be your own best, create a support system if you tend to fall off the wagon and if you're like, okay, create some safety net for yourself. Like if I really am craving dessert, then I'm gonna have, like have some healthy desserts back up, so that it's like if you love sweets and it's like such a thing to give up sweets for like a whole week and you just go through this like crazy craving for sweets, then it's okay to have, some dates or have some, make some healthy date almond cookies or something and keep that just in case. Having some backups is really helpful. Doing a cleanse with a partner or friend can also be, a great, buddy system is also always great. And if you mess up, and you had a, it's not the end of the world, if you kind of fall off the bandwagon. But this is not a starvation diet either. So, keep that kitchery handy when you're hungry. And you can vary your, you can have honey in your drinks, so it's not like one of those most depriving kind of cleanses. So then the next action would be to just like look at your calendar and see, decide how long is going to be your cleanse and when will you do it. And or you might decide, well, this is too much, it's not for you, that's fine also. It's not like you have to do it, but it is, it is a wonderful kind of a simplification of your diet, giving your organs, the vital organs, a much needed rest, and giving yourself a chance to attune during these. You want to be meditating, you want to be doing restorative yoga, and at the end of your cleanse, it's like you can look back and reflect on, okay, now what, right? Like what new intentions feel important to you. At the end of the cleanse, it's also the cleanse is not over when it's like when your active phase of the cleanse is over. Remember, there's also that reintroduction phase. If you do a 3 days cleanse, then you should do a 3-day easing back into your regular diet. So maybe on day 1 you would just introduce more variety of vegetables, and maybe you allow yourself a cup of caffeinated tea. Maybe that's day 1 of just easing back into regular diet. Maybe on day 2, you allow yourself to have, a whole wheat toast or something. You can have organic milk, or you might decide to keep the almond milk, and maybe day 3, you start introducing vegetarian proteins like tofu and other legumes. And maybe on day 4 or 5, if you eat meat, you reintroduce meats. And so you want to take it very gradually, and take as many days, an equal number of days for the easing back into your regular diet as you took for your cleanse itself. So that is so important, because a lot of times that's the number one mistake people make in a cleanse is they go from this like very ascetic kind of a lifestyle, and then they pig out. They're like, I can't wait to go out and have, burger, pizza, all that. And then they do worse for their system, right? Than if they didn't do a cleanse, because at the end of the cleanse, your body is in a very fragile and it's in a very sensitive place. So that's the time. I know it's like, okay, you've stuck with it and you're like so ready to, have regular food, but persevere really through the reintroduction phase. That is like, you really want to highlight that and give yourself that graduating into regular diet. So I hope this has been helpful. Do you know? Yes. I'll take the
Yes,
feedback.
thank you.
Yes.
So what's the problem with having salads rather than, it's supposed to be something warm? Is that the?
No, salad is raw food. So it actually, asks the digestive system to work a little harder, because to digest raw food is like when you eat cooked food, it's like you're pre-digesting it a little bit, you know? So it's recommended during the cleanse to have steamed veggies. That's a great question though. Yeah, steamed veggies. And because raw food, your agni has to work extra hard to digest the raw food. So yeah, when you start reintroducing the food, you can have your salad on, day 2 or day 3, but during the cleanse, stay with steamed vegetables. It's just, yeah, easier. We're trying to give the digestive system a rest. That's why. Yeah. And raw foods are hard work for the body. And a lot of times, I see Vata people, pure Vata types just love the raw vegan diet. And it's completely the opposite thing that they need for their constitution. It's making more ethereal, increasing their fairy airiness, ungroundedness. So that, although it's healthy, the raw diet is not for everyone. Pitta person, yes, Pitta people have very strong digestion, so that's fine. But if a Pitta person has Vata disorder also, I think that the raw diet, and also it's also the time of the year. Those raw diets, it's very cool in nature, and it's more high in ether content. And summertime may be okay to do that because it's naturally warmer. But yeah, during the middle of the winter, going on a raw diet, not a great idea, especially for Vata people, so yeah, know thyself is very, very important when it comes to how do you cleanse yourself, how choose what you feed yourself. So hope that's been helpful. Any other last questions?
I had a couple of questions. So I bounced off this time and last time because my daughter called me.
Of course, no problem.
This time when she was on her way home, and
That is important.
it's so precious.
And you are here
Precious to talk to
twice.
you.
Tracy is
What
here
the-
twice. Why are you here twice?
Oh, I just happen to be on my PC, but I know
see.
the sound gets distorted if I talk from that. So on my
Got it.
iPhone, the
Yes.
sound is
Oh.
okay.
What's your
Yeah.
question?
But I figured you were sharing screens and I can see it better on my PC to see your details of your
Sure.
screen share. So at any rate, my question is about the, so it looked to me in the cleanser wasn't a dinner, so to speak. There's just the main meal between 10 and 2, which if you're doing a cleanse and you're having a breakfast, you're probably going to eat a 2 o'clock lunch, dinner, and that's it for the day in terms of eating, right? Because I didn't see dinner mentioned in your schedule.
No, you can have dinner. So I'm saying have 3 meals. Have 3 meals.
Oh, there is a dinner there. I somehow didn't see that in
have
your,
khichdi. Have khichdi with your breakfast. Or,
just khichdi for 3 times a day or 2
well,
times
you
a
can do
day with
khichdi
oatmeal?
3 times a day, but
Yeah.
probably that's too much for most people. So I say, hot cereal in the morning without milk.
Mhm. Yeah.
Reconstituted fruit, and then lunch, hearty bowl of khichdi, and then dinner, a smaller bowl of khichdi. Or I said you can break it up between dal and rice. You can make it into just dal and rice if you prefer, but it's basically the same ingredients. And so yeah, just giving a mono diet gives your vital organs a rest. So yes.
Yeah.
Just
So,
to
and then
clarify.
the idea of cooking the khichdi with the vegetables within it as well is
Yes.
okay too.
Yes,
I mean,
and I
just
will,
whatever combination.
in the Ayurvedic section, I'll put up a little recipe. I'm sure you know how to make khichdi, having had an Indian.
Yes, believe me.
But I will put that. It's quite yummy, actually. It's quite yummy and very nourishing. So
Yeah.
I don't have problem with 3 days of just straight khichdi. But yeah, if you're used to going out all the time, but I think you'll find it just conserves so much energy of your vital organs by just simplifying your diet like this and supporting it with hot water, sipping hot water with your meals. Don't forget, 8 to 12 glasses of warm or hot water every single day of the cleanse and the easing back phase. So yeah, and finish your
Yes, and about the oils. I didn't get clarity on the types of oils for self-massage. Is it the sesame oil that tends to be a little bit more heavy oil, and the sunflower is the lighter oil? And where does almond oil fall?
Yeah, almond oil is, I think, I find that it's very good for Pitta Vata people. It's kind of, it has a little bit hot, but not as hot as sesame. It's very nourishing as well. So almond oil, I think, agrees with both Vata people and Pitta people both, especially Pitta Vata types. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for you,
Okay.
Tracy, I think that, let's just think here. For you, you are, what is your Prakriti? Do you know?
I'm a Vata Pitta.
Okay, Vata Pitta. So during the wintertime, sesame oil, just plain sesame oil, not the toasted dressing kind of sesame oil.
No, yeah,
Right? Just the plain organic kind.
yeah.
So that'll do really well. So
Mhm.
if you have the time to heat the sesame oil, you're gonna just
Mm.
put a little sesame oil in a metal cup or something,
In a Katori, yeah.
in a katori, and then you
Yeah.
have some hot boiled water in another larger vessel, and then you put
Mm.
that, vessel inside the hot water. That's the best way to
Ooh,
heat up the oil. And in the wintertime,
that
it
sounds
really
good.
feels nice to have warm oil massage. It's very
Mm.
nourishing. So
Mm.
that's why these things take a little bit of more time, but this is time for deep self-care. So treat yourself to a warm, and then when you ease back into your daily routine, you can just, straight out of it. If you don't have time to heat up the oil, that's okay. But that's why I like, right after a hot shower, just doing the Abhyanga on my warm skin, and it feels, it's been working for me all these years. So
Mm.
enjoy,
Mm.
ladies. This is time
Thank you
for
so much.
deep self-care, and yeah, that oil. Ayurveda uses a lot of oil because oil is, it's also, Dr. Law talks about the molecules of undigested emotions. It's not just about
Mm.
cleansing your body, that he says, every emotion that is not transformed into love or compassion is undigested emotions. And it, the undigested emotions, if it's repressed, gets stuck, lodged in the connective tissues, in the fat tissues, and it gets lodged in your organ system as well. And so we're also, that's why we want a lot of spaciousness in your schedule and time to relax and let the cells do this. And the reason for the oil is, the cells have a lipid membrane. The cells have a lipid membrane. And so, the molecules of emotions, there's something about oil that pulls the toxins, the subtlest toxins from the microchannels of your body. And in the summer fall cleanse that Ayurveda advocates, we have people drink ghee, because it's all about oleating the inner tract. During this kapha cleanse, no, we don't do that. But that's another kind of deep internal cleanse, where the ghee goes into the internal organ tract and begins to pull the toxins back into the nearest exit route. And that is, it's amazing, the power of just dousing your body in oil. And Dr. Lad used to say, it's kind of like creating a similar environment to when you were a fetus and you were in the mother's amniotic sac. There was that
Mm.
profound feeling of safety. And when you put that warm sesame oil on your body, you'll kind of get what he's saying. It's such a nourishing feeling on your skin. You feel so settled in your skin. So um, enjoy that, and with that new understanding, of oil massage, I hope you'll be inspired to stick with the routine, and I'd love to hear all about it in the next call. So let's
So,
give,
so we're not using the ghee during
not
this
during this
cleanse.
not during this cleanse, no, because it's a kapha time, and kapha is already too oily.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, let's give ourselves, each other, and the universe a swaha, a gratitude swaha, acknowledgement swaha. Ready? And call on your prana shakti, your ayu, to come to your hands. And ready? And 1, 2, 3, swaha. For each
Swaha,
other. 1, 2, 3, swaha.
swaha,
And for planet Earth, Mother Earth. And 1, 2, 3, swaha. Happy
swaha.
spring, everybody. Happy spring.
Happy
Have a
spring.
Thank
healthy,
you.
healthy spring. Look forward to seeing you.
No, no coffee will be the hardest.
Offer it up to the fire of yoga.
Swaha.
Lots of love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bedtime.